It's finally finished, but we're still stuck in supernatural purgatory. This podcast is a rewatch of all 15 seasons and hopefully our way to finally escape this show.
Join us once a week for a fun, informal discussion on each episode and leave comments on any specific upcoming plot points you'd like us to discuss.
Hi, everyone.
Heyo.
Hey. So this week we're talking about episode 14 of season 1, Nightmare. So I looked this up on IMDb. It has a rating of 8.3 out of 10. Written by Sarah Gamble and Rael Tucker and directed by Phil Sgriccia. Before we get into this episode, we put a content warning on our description, so please have a look for that for timestamps of when we talk about specific things, and don't listen to something that's not going to make you happy.
Yes, it very much. We want this to be fun, but This episode was a bit more intense than we remembered.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk about it, but we'll try and keep it a little bit brief and not get too much into it. But it does come up. So
yeah, exactly. So read the description before listening. If you're worried about anything like that, and if you don't listen, we completely understand.
Yes. So moving on from there.
Yes.
I don't know if you noticed, but Kim Manners and John Chaban are now executive producers. They were on this episode. I noticed that when the credits were rolling, I was like, hey, they weren't in the writing credits, but they were one. I think they were labeled as co-executive producers, so they weren't quite on their own. But so I thought it was kind of interesting that they've sort of upgraded from just being writers.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I don't know when that switch was made. I don't really notice things like producers. I probably should more.
I mean, literally the only reason why I generally don't, this is kind of bad, but I generally don't pay attention to that. I think it's just sort of ingrained now, like watching so much TV, you kind of gloss over some of those credits that show at the beginning.
Yeah.
But like I said, just because those names have like, obviously we're so much more aware because we're doing a rewatch and we are doing this podcast. So like, I know for me, I'm like pausing the episode and stuff like that. So, I'm a bit more aware of what's going on. So when I saw those names, I was like, oh, okay, cool. So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I still consider this like, this is all is random and it's like the Kripke era. So
yeah, absolutely. This is very true.
So I think, I mean, I didn't remember much about this episode, but I think this is a really important one in terms of the storyline for, I don't know, I guess seasons 1 and 2, and then going onwards, still quite important. It kind of sets up a few things.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. Especially relating to Sam, obviously. This is a very Sam-centric episode.
You can see that from the recap that they showed, because it's completely different to what has been shown so far.
Yeah, the recap is completely different. I wrote that down, and it sort of shows all the things that have been going on with Sam over the season, or his psychic dreams and visions, and it's all based around him. So I think with that, should we get into it today?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, so I guess the reviews of the episode was pretty high, being 8.3. Obviously not the highest, but it's definitely up there. I'm not sure I completely agree with that. It was a good episode, but just I think it being so like heavy in some of its themes, for me, I don't think it kind of warrants that high of a.
Yeah.
I know though the writing is very good. There are some points in there that they did really well. So I don't know. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. I'm not sure.
This was very serious for an episode of Supernatural. Like, this is a show I tend to go to like escape reality, and I was just like, oh, this week wasn't that fun. Let's be honest.
No.
I could have done with a lighter episode this week, but.
Well, the last week was serious in its own, in its real life themes with like racism.
That's true.
And I guess there's some in this one too, but like that racism was basically the story of that last episode.
Yeah.
And this one just, because racism's so big, and this particular story feels so personal.
Yeah.
It just felt heavier.
Yeah, I think so. And like, I think the acting in this was really good as well. I thought.
Yeah, no, it was. All right. So we've spoken about the recap. We get into the episode, and it's just, we're in an unknown location. So again, I think it's the second time that this has happened where we start the episode and we're not sure where we're actually at.
Yeah. And
we see this car, and like, you could be confused if you don't know your cars, and at this point we've only seen like 13 episodes.
Yeah.
So if you're really new to the show, you might get confused to think that it was like the Impala.
I think it's a Dodge, right? Is it a Dodge Charger? Or...
I think so. I'm not sure what kind of car it was.
It's okay.
But it's definitely the same kind of era car as theirs. And so, like, I was like, oh, they're playing a little bit of a trick on us.
Yeah.
Especially since, like, when we get later on in seasons, when they start to have other cars, they do keep with the, like, classic car look.
Yes.
So, like, again, rewatch, I'm thinking, oh, could they have switched cars? But no. It's, this car is important, or something important's going to happen, because it, like, focuses on the license plate. Like, yes. Whenever there's like a little bit of not hesitation, but a longer pause on something, that you have to pay attention to it. Weird things start to happen.
Yeah.
So the garage door closed by itself, and like at first I was like, well, that's not really anything, because like some people have the like clicker in their actual car, because obviously they have to, because they have to open it from the outside. So I was like, well, maybe he hit it, but there's a guy inside the car, and he's like looking around like, hey, hang on, that's not right. And his car doors lock, and the car starts, and the guy's panicking, and like the radio's skipping. So it all sounds like a possible ghost interaction.
Yeah, I think so.
Minus the lights, and he's trying to get out of his car, and this would be a good time to have one of those glass breakers in your car.
Yes, that's absolutely true, actually.
Because he tries to kick the windows out, but he doesn't. So
I actually do have one of those on my car keys.
Oh, yeah, you do? I don't have it in my. I should probably have one on my car keys because it's easy to reach. But I have a seatbelt cutter and a glass breaker, like in my center console. But as soon as he was kicking the car windows, I was like, this is why you need a glass breaker.
Yes. Yes, if you drive and you don't have one, I am very serious. Buy one.
Yeah, like, even if you never use it.
Yeah, just have it.
I think I got mine from Amazon, and I got 2 in a pack for maybe $10, and it could save your life or someone else's life. So
definitely. It's something that no one ever tells you about when you buy a car to have.
There's so many things you should actually have in your car, which, like, people don't.
Exactly.
I got one of those SOS, like, emergency bags for my car, so I have like a light up, not a light up vest, but a reflective vest, a headlamp, a reflective triangle, rope, batteries, all this kind of stuff.
That's such a good idea. Yeah.
So anyway, a little bit of driver safety for you.
It's important. So we see this guy, and obviously because the car is going, the exhaust is coming through the vents, and sort of as he's kind of panicking, then we see Sam wake up. So this has happened before. We've seen Sam seeing something, and then he wakes up. So he kind of like wakes up Dean, who slept like really funny. He's just like on his back with his like arm out. So he kind of like taps him, like, Dean, wake up. And kind of just starts getting in motion to go and save this person that he thinks is in trouble. Dean goes along with it for the most part. He's kind of supportive in a way, like, is this really happening?
Yeah. I wonder if it's more like sort of like bleary kind of, all right, I'll do what you need right now, but like we're gonna have a conversation. Yeah,
exactly. They kind of do while they're driving, so it cuts. I really liked that cut from the lamp to the headlight of the car. It was a good transition. Sam's on the phone. I guess he's impersonating a police officer because in his dream he saw the license plate of the car, so he's trying to find out who it belongs to. And he's using a code, which I didn't look up, but I imagine that it's related to the situation that he saw in his dream to get this information.
Yeah.
And Dean, ever the skeptic, is like, oh, it's, the plates aren't going to match.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all this stuff, the plates not going to match. It's absolutely fine. We're just driving nowhere, I guess.
Yeah, sort of like explaining it away and sort of playing it down a little bit.
Yeah, like he says, oh, it's probably a nightmare the first time that the title of this episode is said. But unfortunately for Dean, I guess, the license plate comes through and they find out that this car belongs to a Jim Miller and they get his address. So I think Sam also looks surprised that this worked out. I think he maybe didn't want it to.
I mean, he did see someone die in his dream, so I guess he's hoping that it wasn't true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. He has some questionable face pulling in this episode, and this is one of his, or not questionable, but like, what's the word I'm looking for?
You'll get there.
Anyway, this Sam feels like the Sam that goes throughout the rest of the season, like series, like
yes,
the mouth presses and all the lip presses and stuff like that. It's just...
Yeah, he was really recognizable.
Yes.
I know that sounds weird because we've watched him now in like 13, 14 episodes, but this Sam is the most recognizable Sam, I think.
Which is really strange because I also made a note that like hearing him talk about his powers is such a distance between like this and say like any of season 15. Like it's just gone. Like this whole like era of like Sam having psychic powers. I feel like they did mention it very briefly, like much later on, as a you can't say anything because you used to do this kind of thing.
Yeah. And
I think it was more in reference to what's coming up with Ruby.
Yes.
Rather than like having psychic powers. But it was so, there's a couple of points in this that like felt like in this episode in general that felt very like fantastical a little bit. It didn't, like, for how serious this episode was, didn't really like match the tone. There was a couple of points where like I laughed and I don't think I was supposed to.
I think I know the points you mean, yeah. But this is the point, right? Sam's psychic powers.
So I think all of that gets like revealed later on as to like, because
I don't think we should go into it now.
Yeah, no, we won't get any further into. I was thinking the same thing when I was like watching this episode, that I couldn't remember what happens next to make the events happen. Like,
I was thinking, like, why did he lose his psychic powers, like, later on? Like, he should never have lost them, but I guess he did, so... yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I feel like... I don't know. I have no idea.
So, they turn up at this house that Sam saw in his dream, and the police are already there. There's sort of a crowd forming, and it does, like, a zoom into Sam's face, and he looks... disappointed, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Just before the title card, it sort of does this like slow zoom into his face. Yeah, so it kind of already telling you they didn't really get there on time to help this guy.
Yeah. So they go into, like, they've pulled up, but they have, like, before the title card, they pull up and they see the crowd, but after the title card, we're now actually in the crowd with the people.
Yeah.
He's like talking to a lovely little lady, who basically tells them exactly what Sam saw, but with the spin that it was suicide.
Yeah.
And like that, I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense that a nosy neighbor would be willing to spread this information.
Yeah.
Because they ask like pretty pointed questions of like, when did this happen? Like, how did he die? When did it happen? And she's just like, oh, they think it's suicide. He was in his car. And and it happened a couple of hours ago, which is exactly when Sam woke up from his nightmare.
Yeah.
Watching it happen.
Exactly. So, I mean, I put, like, here, Sam is very upset. He seems, like, really distraught about this. And Dean is kind of trying to console him and, say, like, well, there's no way you could have known. Like, we couldn't have got here any faster. They're already driving pretty fast. I think during the scene with them driving, Sam even told him to hurry up, and he really did put his foot on the pedal.
Yeah.
And like Sam says here, like, what's the point in having these visions if I can't, like, stop them?
Why would I even have these premonitions unless there was a chance that I could stop them from happening?
Which is, like, I guess a really good point. Like, why, like, what was the point of them? But I mean, I guess it does explain it kind of later on that there's kind of this connection that he's having that kind of drew him to this place.
So as Sam is, being very distressed, Dean, like, is saying something. I wasn't paying that much attention, but then he was like, he does say supernatural, and I was like, ha ha ha, he said the name of the show in the show.
I love it when that happens. I made the same note. I was like, oh yeah, I love it. Yeah.
And in such like a pointed way, like they've said it before, like they've said supernatural before, but like there was something about the way he said it this time that I feel like it may have been like at the end of the sentence, so that's why it was like supernatural.
He definitely says it like almost like a wink and a nudge. I don't know, like it was funny. So basically what he's saying here is that maybe this isn't related to anything supernatural, and Sam's trying to convince him otherwise. Well, I had the dream, like, we're here. Something's going on. I feel in this episode, Dean is being very supportive, but like I thought,
skeptic.
But he's still very skeptical about all these visions and psychic abilities and things. And
it's almost like denial.
Yes, denial is a very good word for this, because he makes a few little like jokes and quips in this episode about like psychic abilities and stuff, but it's covering. He is actually really worried about Sam.
Yeah, you definitely see that
in this whole episode. So, I mean, he agrees that they're going to work this case. He's like, let's come back in the morning. And Sam says, like, this family, they're like really upset. Who are they going to talk to? And Dean's like, well, I have an idea. And like he does a little smirk. There's not much comic relief in this episode, but like Dean, we can always count on him to deliver some comic relief.
Yes.
Which I appreciate. Definitely.
And so they come back in the next day, and we'll bring this up in our like recap episode. We'll do recap and outtake episode, because the outtakes are life.
Yes.
Because this one is one of my particular favorites out of like every single outtake that they've ever done.
Yes.
But they turn up as priests.
Yes.
And my question is, why? Like, why priests of all? I mean, it's very visually it makes sense, because if they were just like, they said they were just a preacher and they were just like in a shirt and tie, like it doesn't make that same impression. But like,
so I know the old lady that they spoke to said, oh, this family goes to St. Augustine, so that's obviously where Dean got the idea from. But you're right, they didn't have to wear the dog collar, black shirt get up. They could have just been like, oh, we're part of the youth team from the church. They didn't need to dress like vicars.
No.
But yes, thanks.
Yeah, no, it's very appreciated, but not necessary.
No, I don't know if you've watched the second season of Fleabag, but it definitely gave me some kind of complex around priests. So I think this was a good episode to watch for this. So, I mean, they introduce themselves to this guy that they met, who turns out to be Jim Miller's brother, Robert Miller. And they introduce themselves, well, Dean does, as Father Simmons and Father Freely, who are the lead guitarist and bassist from Kiss. Okay. And they say they're junior priests from the family's specific church. And you'd think that maybe if this family go to church every Sunday, they would know all of the priests. But it never gets questioned.
That's very true. That's very weird. Though, like, I personally thought, like, the brother-in-law, Mr. Miller, was more of an atheist. I was like, I wrote, it's a good thing that they met an atheist at the door, because I feel like they probably would have asked more questions.
Yeah.
But he was kind of like, don't talk to me about it. I don't care about religion. Like, go talk to the family, like his wife.
Because Dean goes in hard on the like God talk, straight off the bat. One thing I will say here, so doesn't Sam's hair look really good?
It kind of does. I think, yeah, like the sideburn hair sweep.
Yes,
it's a nice combo. It's a nice combo.
Why is he not wearing his hair like this all the time? Like, why did he brush it just to be a bit? He's like, oh, do only priests brush their hair? Because Sam, this is a good look.
It is a good look. Oh, he does eventually kind of adopt that look a little bit later on. But yeah, I mean, I guess he does look a little bit older with his hair brushed like that.
Yeah, I think so.
So it might be like a styling choice, because when he has his like fringe or bangs, whatever, he does look like younger, I guess.
I think it's because, and I'm trying to get into Sam Winchester's mindset here. I feel like maybe he parted his hair like that because it's more like clean cut looking compared to his normal mop.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I'm glad he adopted that later on. But I even wrote as a note, I was like, damn, his hair looks good in this episode.
Yes, like okay, he's trying to be a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
He couldn't turn up to a courtroom with his hair looking like he's just dunked his head in some water and like whatever. But like, so I'm wondering, maybe like in college he did sweep it up like that, because he has to know somehow. But like, when you're with your brother, who cares like what your hair looks like?
That's very true. Yeah, it's just comfort level. Yeah. Fine.
Maybe
it was good.
It definitely was good.
So they get interrupted by Jim Miller's wife, and I just wrote, oh my god, it's Zelda Spellman.
Yes.
I didn't catch her name this episode. The whole time I was thinking, oh, it's Zelda. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think she's given a name.
I don't know. It was really hard to disconnect her from like Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I don't know why. That's a very big part of my childhood. So
I'm usually like that. But she is given a name in the credits as Alice.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I don't think it's ever said. I don't think it's ever said in the show. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so. I know she is referred to as Mrs. Miller later on, but not by her first name.
Mm-hmm.
So she's in other TV shows, like on one-offs.
Yeah.
And one of my other favorite shows is Leverage, and she's in that, and she plays like this crazy like conspiracy theorist, would be on InfoWars type of presenter. So like, because I've seen her in other stuff now, like it doesn't like, as soon as I see her, yes, she's Zelda, but then like I can switch that off.
Fair enough.
But yeah, no, I was taken aback because I didn't remember her being in this episode.
No, me neither. I was like, oh yeah, okay. I mean, so she saves them kind of from her brother-in-law and offers them coffee. And as they sit down again, Dean's going like, I said he's like hamming it up as a priest.
He really is.
After all, we are all God's children.
He really is. But then like, while still acting like a priest, he's acting like Dean, like stuffing his face with food.
Yes. So, okay. So a little bit of trivia on this. This is the first time that Jensen did that as Dean. And it put the cocktail sausages was apparently unscripted. And it was from that moment they started making him eat stuff in scenes. Which I'm sure is a moment he very much regrets. Also, the food that like is on, it's been sat around for hours and hours and hours. I think he says in an interview about this specific scene that he ate that sausage on a whim and then it tasted really bad.
Yeah, I'm sure. Oh, yeah.
And then from then on, like Dean eats stuff all the time. So, and like
not just pie.
Not just pie, no. And like the look that Sam gives him is like, tone it. I think he even says it later, like tone it down, like tone it down, because it's so suspicious. So, I mean, even when I think she goes to get them some coffee and they come back and he's still got his mouth full while he's trying to talk to her. It's just such a moment.
It really is. So it's actually kind of funny because the first time he eats, like I'm sure like after they cut, they might have gotten like fresh food for him to start eating. Hopefully. Because that first one that he eats, I swear was like a cherry. And I was like, why did they put a cherry on a stick? Because it just didn't look right. Yeah. So it was just weird that like he just kind of ate it. But then, anyway. It was... But no, it did make me laugh. Like another character trait was developed in this season. So they're talking about like they're getting the answers that they kind of need, but not really. Mm-hmm. And they ask, it must have been difficult for you to find your husband like that. And she says, actually, no, it was our son Max. Mm-hmm. And it sort of pans to this young man in the corner, like in it by himself.
Yeah.
So Sam's like, oh, let me go talk to him.
Yeah.
We stay with Dean though. I thought they were going to follow him over, but they don't. But they stay with Dean, and like this was one first time I noticed that the writing was really good in this, because the way that Dean like determines how there could be a ghost in the house by saying, oh, these old houses, right? There's electrical difficulties or like these random cold spots and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And she's like, no, we've never had anything like that. And then to get out of this awkward conversation, because he doesn't really have a response, is to be like, where's your bathroom?
Yeah, good get out of conversation card there.
And he takes some food for the road.
Yes, I didn't notice he took food. That's really good. Yeah. So we cut to Sam talking to Max. And we find out that he lives at home. He says he's been saving for a school, but he hasn't managed to go yet. And like he's basically just saying to Sam that he doesn't know why this happened. There's not much in this conversation other than kind of getting to know Max a bit. He looks like extremely upset while Sam's talking to him the whole time. So they kind of have this back and forth, but no real information is given at this point. Right.
So I wrote here that this is another moment where like being cursed with knowledge, because we know what's going on in this episode.
Yeah.
But it's like, and it's just, I'm just trying to look back to like first time I watched this, how was I fooled by this character?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's like super upset and like his dad's died and all that, but like it felt off. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like watching this again.
Yeah, so the actor who plays him is Brendan Fletcher, and I do feel like he did a really good job in this episode. He's just so emotional through that whole episode. It must have been really tiring to film. Because he always just looks like he's on the verge of tears, I think. Mm-hmm. But at the same time as looking upset, he does look like he's hiding something through this whole episode as well, which is a really... I don't know. Yeah, like, again, I don't know if it's because we know where this is going, or if he's just that good an actor, but something always feels a little bit off in all of his conversations, I think. Yeah. So, really interesting. Like, kudos to him. Good job.
Yeah, definitely. Then we come back to Dean, and he's, like, just upstairs, a little bit wandering around, and he pulls out this thing. I have no idea what it is. It looks very fantastical, and I'm like, why do they never use this again? It's got, like, I guess it's got a camera on it because it's got the screen and then these like lasers coming out of it.
In a later scene, he calls an infrared thermal scanner, and it's not like any thermal scanner I've ever seen. So I think what this is, I know a little bit about ghost hunting. Don't ask me how. I think it's a mix between two things they've kind of put into this device here. So he's obviously got on the screen some kind of thermal imaging, I guess looking for cold spots in the house. There is another ghost hunting tool that people use, which projects almost like a grid of lasers, and then you kind of film it and watch for disturbances in the grid, like suggesting that something has passed through it. So I'm wondering if this is kind of a mishmash of those two things, because although infrared does use lasers, you don't need to see them. It's infrared, so you can't see it. But I think that, yeah, again, I think they've used it visually. It looks very cool, but maybe they got the idea from this other sort of laser grid that ghost hunters sometimes use. I mean, someone can correct me on that. I've never been ghost hunting, but I know somebody who works in a place where they often get ghost hunters. So I've heard a few stories.
That's kind of cool. That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was just like, what is this?
It's
And
cool
why do
looking.
we never see it again? Like, I thought maybe does it get destroyed in this episode and that's why? But no,
It's the
it
same
doesn't.
with a few of these things, like the EMF detector. That disappears at some point, never to return. The camera that they use with the night vision, again, don't bother. I guess they come up with other ways and means to detect these things, or maybe they just become so good they don't have to rely on gadgets anymore. I don't know. But yeah, it's a shame. I like these like old school janky ghost hunting things. It's pretty cool.
Well, I do feel like the EMF detectors that one sticks around the longest for sure.
I think so.
But then again, they also stop fighting ghosts so much. It becomes like other monsters. So
yeah, ghosts are
like,
too low level for the Winchesters.
Right?
By like seasons,
Exactly.
I don't know, whatever.
And like demons always reveal themselves. So
Yeah.
like, and so, yeah. Anyway, it was just I feel like season 15 they could have used that for something like that. That first couple of episodes that.
Yeah,
Some of that ghost hunting equipment would have been helpful.
definitely. Like, come on, do some throwbacks. That would have been some
Yeah.
good throwbacks, rather than maybe some of the ones that we got.
Yeah.
So he hears some footsteps, but luckily it's just Sam, and he manages to put away his like device before he finds them anyway, and says that he doesn't find anything. So then we cut back to the motel, and Dean's sat on the bed like cleaning his guns, while Sam's doing all the research, I think.
So, okay, I have a question.
Yes.
Do you think this is another fan service, a male fan service moment?
What, like looking at all their guns and yeah.
Yeah, all their weaponry is just out. Like, this is the first time we've really seen them, like, maintain their equipment. That sounded worse than I meant it to.
I'm keeping that. See, I really enjoy this kind of like minutia. Like, I think Becky says it in a later season. Like, can we just have them like doing their laundry? Like, I want to see that. I don't know why, but like, I just want to see like cooking, or I don't know, like, yeah, doing your laundry or going food shopping. I don't know why I enjoy that about characters, because I think you learn a lot about them through those things. And I think this is one of them, where you learn a lot about Dean in a very small scene, because you know that he's like, obviously like fastidiously cleaning these guns. He obviously takes care of them. That means that he, you know, he's got some kind of organizational skills around them. He clearly like cares about his belongings. Like, it just tells you a few little things about him. So I like that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think also probably some fan service for the people who like to see different guns on the episodes.
I think I'm not sure if it was this, because like obviously their guns don't really change and neither do their outfits.
Yeah.
But I think there's another outtake, and like Jared is getting his lines wrong, and Jensen's got like the props, and I think he's with the like cleaning or dismantling his gun.
Yeah.
So it may be the scene, because it feels like it is, but it may not be. His thing was like, can you get it right? You have all this stuff going on, and like I don't know. It was really it just makes me laugh.
I remember that one. Yes. It might be from this. I mean, I think there's a few gun cleaning scenes in this
Yeah, me
season.
too. And like he obviously they're in their motel room, so it's unlikely that they're in their whole get up. So it makes sense that it was just shirt and jeans. So anyway.
Yeah. I like it. I like a scene with a little bit of like detail into their lives, rather than just sitting and having a conversation. It seems very more real. So Sam's saying that he can't find anything. They're really like hitting some roadblocks here. They just can't find anything supernatural happening in the surroundings or the house or anything. And then while they're talking, Sam gets like a really bad headache. I thought this is quite good. He's sort of like still trying to talk, but his head is hurting. So he's like pinching the bridge of his nose and eventually sort of like collapses down between the sides of the bed.
So there's one line here that made me laugh because I was just like, what? He says, "Yep, it's my head." I was like, the acting wasn't obvious enough. Like, you're holding your head.
You're
like
holding your whole head.
Yep, it's my head. It's like, what?
I know. So like Dean's obviously like really concerned. He like runs around the side of the bed and he's like, what's going on? We never see what really happens to Sam during these visions because it kind of like whites out and shows you the vision, but does he like collapse or is he still just holding his head, or like, I don't know. I'd be interested to know that.
Yeah, I think it's left to your imagination, to be honest. Like, I think there's a little bit of TV like mysticism.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like, you're not supposed to really think about it because like this next scene is pretty long, so like for it to obviously is playing out in real time. It's not like sped up or anything. So I think the next scene is like about 5 minutes. So he'd be in there on the floor with his head. Like, I don't know.
I mean,
feels
they
a little weird.
kind of show at the end that he kind of seems to get like flashes. So maybe he's just seeing the flashes and it's playing the whole vision for our sake as a viewer. I don't know. So the vision that Sam sees is like Roger Miller arriving home in his kitchen, unpacking his bags, and somehow his window opens just by itself. So this kind of plays out a few times. That he closes it, he locks it, it opens again, he closes it, and then one time it opens, he can't close it again. So he kind of like sticks his head out to see what's getting it stuck, and it like drops straight down and decapitates him.
Bit like a guillotine. Though, okay, the way he looks out that window. Can we talk about that?
Yeah. Okay.
Who looks out the window like that? Like, who puts just their head out and like, no, you put like your whole body out and like kind of look up and around. Like, you wouldn't just sort of literally lie on your back and look out the window. Like, what is that? What is that? But this is the first blood splatter scene that we've seen, I think, since Wendigo.
Maybe. Like, it's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, very reminiscent of later episodes. So yeah, pretty gruesome. But he did stick his head out a window in a weird old way. I don't know. This is sounding weird. I don't know if like one of those sash windows would have enough force to like decapitate someone. But it definitely could. I guess it definitely could kill someone. But
yeah,
weird. I don't know. It just seems.
Well,
a bit blunt.
We don't really see like I don't think the blood splatter thing is also kind of excessive.
Yeah.
Because like I was just thinking if his head's a bit like a watermelon and it's not his neck that gets hit.
Oh, you're right. Oh no.
But even still, like, I don't think it would produce that level of. Anyway, I don't want to think about that too much because it's kind of gross.
Yeah, no, you're completely right.
But we also so at the end of his this very cohesive like sequence, we see like this flashes of a bedroom. It's got like pizza boxes. That was also at the beginning of the vision as well.
I didn't spot that. Well done.
There's kind of an indication of something. We don't know what, but it's of something. The thing is, though, I don't think it ever gets addressed. We can kind of assume to what it is.
Yeah.
But I would have liked a little bit of confirmation as to what it was. But
yeah, me too.
Who knows?
So they're driving again. Obviously, after this vision, Sam managed to convince Dean to go to this next place. He's managed to find the address of Roger Miller. Dean is worried about Sam. Like he's just seen him have this like really bad headache, like incapacitating headache as well. And I love the line like, "Oh, I can, if you need to throw up, I can pull over. Like, don't get it on the upholstery." Like he cares, but he still has to cover it in a joke. Like even to his own brother, like whatever. And sort of Sam's talking about like, the visions are getting worse. They're now painful. They're happening while he's awake rather than when he's just asleep. And they're kind of talking between them like, why this family? Why is he only seeing the Millers? Dean seems really kind of determined that they're going to like sort this all out.
Mm-hmm.
He's very, I don't know, in this episode he's very like goal oriented, like we're just going to sort it out, everything's going to be fine, nothing's to worry about here.
Mm-hmm. He's kind of like the calm to Sam's panic.
Yes, definitely.
Which, I mean, you kind of do need that for, especially for this kind of situation. Dean is definitely like trying to be is trying to be the calculating one, I guess.
Yeah.
For this situation. And I mean, Sam even says, like, does this not feel strange to you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, does this not feel out of the usual? Dean says no, but like, he does sort of look over to Sam very briefly and then looks back to the road. Like, he's lying to Sam, basically. Because, well, at least that's what it comes across as. He wants to say, he wants to calm him down by telling him what he wants to hear.
Yeah.
And not telling him how he actually feels.
Yeah, I feel like in this episode as well, Sam's almost testing his reaction to all of this, like a lot of the time. I mean, the line here where he says, like tell me this doesn't freak you out. There's such a pause between Dean saying, like, it doesn't freak me out.
Tell the truth. You can't tell me this doesn't freak you out.
This doesn't freak me out.
I feel like Sam's testing him because I think he in some way knows this is related to his, like, well, because he knows it's related to his psychic abilities because his visions and things. Mm-hmm. And Sam on multiple occasions has called himself a freak as well.
Yeah.
And then to sort of bring it up like this, he is testing Dean, like, well, you know, in the subtext saying, do you think I'm a freak? Like, that's what he wants to ask him, but just can't.
And I think this is also like sort of looking a little bit into like language and how people lie. Mm-hmm. Like the way that Dean responds by like taking the statement that Sam has made and then turning it into a negative.
Yeah.
It's not 100% usual for Dean to do that. Mm-hmm. So you could say that he is lying. Like
he's very much controlling his reactions to all of this very carefully. But I think it comes from a protective place, like he's trying to protect his brother. No,
it's definitely not in a mean way or anything like that. It's definitely just like I said, I think he's just literally trying to be the calm.
Yeah.
For Sam's panic.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. This I don't know. This lays a lot of groundwork for the next couple of seasons, I feel, in their kind of relationship that I quite enjoyed. So they manage to pull up and they see Roger and they kind of like shout at him out the car window, like, hey, you're in danger. And he's like, no, leave me alone. Like, weirdo, like, priests, what are you doing? I think he says, like,
are you missionaries now?
So they manage to park the Impala and like Sam runs up but like Roger's like, no, and like locks him out, which fair enough. This strange guy is like running up to your house.
And they shout through the window, we're not priests.
Oh man. So they kind of run around the side of the building and like Dean kicks in the gate to the alleyway and the fire escape, and then they kind of climb up. And I thought this was really funny because Sam, I guess / Jared, is tall enough that he can just like pull himself up on the fire escape. Yeah. But like I guess Dean / Jensen, he kind of does a little kick off the wall. It just amused me. I don't know why.
Well, it could also be like, you know, like we've seen with the fence hopping and like some of the other stuff. It's more like, look at my athletic abilities.
Yeah, just put a little flair into it. You do you. So they like run up this fire escape, but unfortunately, as they're running up, they kind of hear a sort of like, I guess, gloop. A gloop. Yeah, gloop noise. Oh, it was grim. And they get up there and they see that the window's all bloody.
Yeah.
And like, Dean does something here that they never do later on, where he's like, let's wipe down our fingerprints so they can't tie us to this. They don't ever really bother with that much. I mean, we saw it in like Bugs, where they're just walking through a crime scene with their muddy boots. Like,
yeah, that's true. And like picking up the towels and stuff. I know, like you can't. I'm pretty sure you can't get like anything off of a towel, but like even still, like what?
Yeah. So I mean, Dean does go into the building to check it out. It doesn't show it at all, what he finds in there. But yeah, they're kind of covering their tracks here, which I was just like, it just seems so they never really care. Okay.
Well, I guess. Well, okay. They also don't call it in,
No.
right?
Oh, they don't actually. No, they don't call the police. So I guess maybe that's why. Maybe because they're not not reporting it, they're worried that they're more likely to wonder why they were there. Yeah.
Yeah, be suspects. But honestly, like,
it looks like an accident, I would say.
yeah,
So.
or like, yeah. Anyway, it was. I wrote it was smart-ish because, like, I'm pretty sure people go out on that fire escape. So even if they were like, they would be more suspicious that it was wiped down. Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. But it was just it was just a little odd line.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Dean goes to the window. We don't see it at all. But it cuts to them outside, and he's saying he didn't find anything, like nothing suspicious at all. And yeah, so
yeah, I know what that was about.
So they're talking about like something's attacking the Miller family, and like they're talking about like maybe they're cursed. And they're saying, like, well, maybe it will attack Max next because it seems to be sort of attacking the men in the family. So that would make logical sense that he was next. And Sam says, well, at least I have one thing in common with these people. Both our families are cursed.
Well, I know one thing I have in common with these people.
What's that?
Both our families are cursed.
Our family's not cursed. We just had our dark spots.
Our dark spots are pretty dark.
You're dark.
And like, dude looks offended.
Properly offended. Like, not even like a little bit. Like,
yeah.
His oh god.
I mean, fair enough, I guess. But he says, like, our family's not cursed.
We've just had some dark spots.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, yeah, and Sam says, like, our dark spots are pretty dark. And he says, like, you're dark, which I just find so funny because that's my go-to for everything. I'm like, no, you.
I did write good comeback, Dean.
Yeah, good things for them. I love it because, like, they are cursed.
Yeah,
they're
totally
so
are.
cursed. And at least I guess Sam could kind of see it, but like, oh, Dean, you're so cursed.
Yeah.
Bless him. Oh, I've actually got tears in my eyes. Oh man, I found it so funny. I don't know why. I needed to laugh during this episode, so I guess that was it.
Yeah, I mean, again, for curse of knowledge, like I don't even think they knew how cursed they were really gonna be.
There's no way they could have possibly known the extent of the curse. Oh, Dean, you sweet summer child.
That's too funny.
Okay. Right. Okay. So they go to see Max as priests again. Like Sam is concerned. This conversation is really short. They seem to like turn up at his house, have this 30-second conversation and leave, which is odd in itself.
Yeah. But so it is also kind of really important as to what happens next and what we find out next. Because they are asking about like his background a little bit, like whether Roger and Jim were close.
Yeah.
And Max tells them that they used to live next door to each other in another part of town.
Yeah.
So they were hung out. So they were close in proximity and they were close in their relationship.
Yeah.
And then the next question that Dean asks was another point of where I was like, this is really, really good writing.
Yeah.
Because it has, the question itself comes across a little bit rude.
Yeah.
But it also has two meanings. Almost three. Because he asks, like, what was your childhood like? But in a kind of I can't remember exactly the words.
All good memories? Do you remember anything unusual? Something involving your father and your uncle, maybe? He
meant it as in, like, in the context of the show.
Yeah.
It could be like, were they doing weird occult stuff?
Yeah.
Or in the context of like a priest asking a person, and this is where like the sort of trigger warning, content warning kind of comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Were you abused?
Yeah. And I think like his answer, like, you know, we're kind of a nice, happy family, and that Dean knows that he's lying is really important, because there's a lot of stuff that like Sam doesn't know about Dean's childhood, that kind of is why he would pick up on that, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, I think it was a really good character choice that Dean was the one to be like, well, this is, you know, he's obviously got something else that he's not saying. You know, like he said, like no one's, I think when they're outside, he says like no one's childhood is like completely happy and normal, which is, yeah. And like I said, there's a lot of stuff that Sam doesn't know that comes up in later episodes and later seasons about how Dean grew up, which is like why he would pick up on that.
Definitely. And like I do like that. So to kind of break the seriousness a little bit,
that's okay.
Whenever they're in tight collars, the next scene with them in, like if they're still in that, Dean automatically goes to like unbutton it, because like he takes the I've forgotten what the actual name of the
called a
collar
dog collar.
is.
Yeah, a dog collar.
Okay, so he takes it off and is like undoing the button as he's talking. Like it's instant. Like they don't. He doesn't care that there's people around that can say like, you know, that he was taking off his wardrobe right there. But
yeah.
It's just, and like this the suit and tie for like the most part, when he does it properly, because obviously in the last episode he didn't even do the top button up.
Yeah,
I didn't tie his tie properly. But yeah, so I just thought it was funny that as soon as he has to like wear like tight collared shirts, he's like, get it off me.
Yeah, like this button has done its job, it can go.
Definitely. So then they decide to go visit the old house, like their old Max's old house, the house he grew up in. And he talks to the neighbor across the street, and he reveals that Max did not have a happy childhood at all. Again, we'll try and be a little bit lighter on this, but Jim was not the best person when he was drunk. He would beat Max, and the neighbor says that he's seen him like with broken arms a couple of times, and that Roger would also partake in the beating sometimes. Yeah. And that the stepmom, Alice, this is the first time we find out that she is a stepmother, because she refers to him as her son. Yeah. Earlier on in the episode. Yeah. So we find out that Alice is actually the stepmom, but she didn't really intervene, which is, you know, it's a tough situation to be in. Yeah. And that Max's real mother had actually died in a car crash many years earlier. So this was not a pleasant conversation to hear. But it gets cut short because Sam starts to have another vision, like he's holding his head and like basically has a migraine again, like we saw earlier. Which I guess, is that what kind of triggered like your, like, what happens when the vision is going on?
Yeah, because there's neighbours like watching them. So if he just like passes out in the street, like awkward, because they're really asking kind of really strange questions, and then this guy like starts clutching his head and like what? Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think it probably is just very instant. Maybe it's just flashes of things, which would make sense later on. I think that it's quick, right?
Yeah, and so I don't know. Could it be like you've had a migraine before, right? Or like a really severe headache? Yeah. Like I'm wondering if I'm wondering if he doesn't pass out, but more like sort of just needs to sit down, because like the next scene that they're in the car, so it's probably more likely that like he just sort of like has to like close his eyes, but maybe not completely passes out. Yeah, well, I don't know, because he does say that this is like earlier in the episode, this is the first time I've been awake while they're happening. So maybe he's not like completely knocked out. But I don't know.
Anyway. Yeah, it's a weird one.
Definitely.
So in this vision, he sees Max confronting his like stepmother Alice, and you know they're having this argument, and he is telekinetically threatening her with a knife, and he kind of backs her against the wall, and then you kind of see them having this back and forth, and he stabs her in through the eye with the knife. It's super grim.
It really is.
Yeah. So Sam tells Dean that it's Max, like it's been Max all along, causing these deaths, and he says that he has telekinesis, to which Dean replies, "Oh, he's a spoon bender." And Sam's kind of annoyed at himself that he didn't connect it earlier. He's like saying, like, why didn't I manage to connect the dots on this? Like, he was always around, he was always there. Like, what was, But he wasn't really. Like, they didn't see him at Roger's apartment. He didn't see him in his vision. Like, there's no way he could have actually connected this. So I don't know why Sam's being so hard on himself, to be honest. And he does say, like, well, maybe because they're so alike, they both have these powers. Maybe that's why he didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And Dean's like saying he's nothing like you.
The thing I don't get is why, man. I guess because we're so alike?
What are you talking about? Dude's nothing like you.
Oh, we both have psychic abilities. We're both...
Both what? Say Max is a monster. He's already killed 2 people, now he's gunning for a 3rd. And
they have a really interesting conversation here, because this is where I mean, like, I think Sam is almost testing Dean's reaction to this. Because Dean's saying, like, well, he's a monster, we're going to take him down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Sam's like, well, no, he's a person, we need to talk to him. We've just found out all this stuff, we need to talk to him. And, Dean says, like, he's no different to anything else we've hunted. Which is really, like, this changes later on, and I think this is one of the things that maybe starts that process, because at this moment in time, Dean is, like, black and white. Monster, not a monster.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So it is kind of interesting because, like, Sam is sympathetic almost to Max's mission of, like, killing his family.
Yeah.
And I found it so strange that Dean's aggression is like, you don't do this to family, even after what they've just found out.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird that the only reason why Dean seems so gung-ho is because he considers him a monster because he has psychic abilities.
Yeah.
But I'm like, how would he reacted if he would just use, like, a gun? Like, he would have just been like, because we've kind of seen this before in Scarecrow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was weird because, like, they didn't go after the town after they destroyed the monster because they're like, well, they're going to get what they deserve. Yeah. And they didn't kill when they're surrounded by the village people, like, the Scarecrow kills them. Yeah. Or 2 of them anyway. So they didn't have to kill the humans. Yeah. Like, so far they haven't had to kill any people. Yeah. Like they've only had to kill monsters. So it's just like, it was so weird that he chose the family argument as to why you wouldn't go after them. But, like, it doesn't make sense for the for Max's situation.
Well, this is it though, because what message is that giving to Sam, like, from Dean's side? Oh, because he has psychic powers and he's using them to kill people, he's a monster. But you're right. Yeah. I think Sam would make that connection. Is like, well, if he didn't have psychic powers, we'd be letting the authorities deal with this, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I guess, this would make Sam wonder, like, and he kind of brings up later in the episode, like, if he went dark side, would Dean then consider him a monster? Mm-hmm. Again, laying the groundwork for future problems that they encounter. So, I mean, Dean kind of promises that he's not going, he promises to kind of hold off, but he says that he's not going to let Max hurt anyone else. And as they go in to confront Max, Dean takes his gun with him. Yeah. Which Sam does not look happy about at all. No. And so they
kick in the door basically
Mm-hmm.
to the house. Well, so actually that's not true. We actually see the beginning of the vision starting to happen. So
Yeah.
Max like walks through the doorway and is like having that conversation about her not doing anything. And just as like the knife is starting to like move on the cutting board,
Mm-hmm.
they kick in the door, and like Alice's reaction is like, priests?
Yeah.
I thought it's kind of like, what?
Yeah.
It made me laugh a little bit. And they're still they still act like the priests that they were.
Mm-hmm.
Basically like, hey, we came here because we need to talk to Max. We need to talk to him outside, and like, you know, let's just, and the kind of, Max is asking why, and it's like, well, we need to have a private conversation. He's being very very persuasive, very like, is really, this is actually Sam doing a really good job.
Yeah.
And Max actually agrees to leave with them.
Yeah.
But as Dean is opening the door, there's a mirror next to the door, and Max catches a glimpse of the gun. Yeah. So if he just left it alone, he would not.
Yeah, there's lessons to be learned here, I think.
Yeah.
For Dean. So, I mean, the door locks with like telekinesis, all the blinds go down, and like Max shouts at them like, "You're not priests." I mean, yeah.
Well, so okay, one thing with that, just as a personal like side note, not personal, but a side note, the priest at my friend's wedding,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say that he's a NRA member just because I don't know that, but he is a supporter, because it's like his bag that he had, like he was at the airport at the same time as I was.
Yeah.
It was an NRA bag, so like priests can have guns too. I mean, obviously, it's obvious that Dean is not a real priest because, like, it's just like tucked into his pants.
And he's dressed like a lumberjack.
And he's dressed like a lumberjack. There is that too. But like, they didn't really question that at that moment.
I mean, yeah, but it's also like, yeah, I get it. It's a highly charged situation. You're also being led outside by two guys you just met, and one of them has a gun. Yeah, it's a bit weird. Like, yeah. So as soon as all this stuff happened, Dean, I guess wrongfully, draws his gun, and it like instantly gets pulled away, which I know is supposed to be very serious, but it did just like look like it was on a piece of string.
So I wrote, "Oops, butterfingers," because it really just looked like he like
let go.
If I did, yeah. If I wouldn't, like, if we hadn't just seen all the doors and everything get slammed shut and stuff, I would have thought he's like pulled it out and just like, whoops, because that's what it kind of looked like.
It just went, like, he just sort of let it go. No fight, it just went. I guess he was surprised. Yeah, fine. And Max picks it up, and then as his stepmom kind of shouts at him to stop, he sort of pushes her with his mind, into a cabinet, and she hits her head. And so Sam really takes the lead in this whole bit, like talking to Max, like he's fully trying to be on his side. He tells him all about the visions. He tells him that he's here to help him, that he wants to talk to him like one-on-one, just for like 5 minutes. And it's almost like a hostage negotiation kind of thing. Like Max is like, no, and Sam's trying to persuade him. And eventually he agrees to talk to Sam for 5 minutes, and Dean's going to take Alice upstairs, which he does.
And so in the next scene, we see Sam and Max like on the couch, and they're sort of, Sam basically again talking about how much they know about his family history, but then Max reveals that, you know, the abuse is still happening.
Yeah.
And that Max is asking, like, has anyone ever looked to you like you're hated? Jim blamed Max for his mother's death.
Yeah.
Which leads into the same description as to, like, because Sam asks, well, why would he blame you?
Yeah.
And Max responds by saying, well, she died in my nursery. And he tells me this crazy story. He was drunk off his mind, that she was pinned to the ceiling and was burned up. And, like, Sam's reaction is, I don't know, I was a little bit, like, because obviously we know this is a conversation was coming, so, but even still, I was just like, hats off to Brendan Fletcher for sure, because it was,
It was very emotional, this scene, and like Sam just looks devastated when he realizes there is more of a connection between them than he even thought. Like he already knew they kind of had this psychic ability, but I guess he maybe thought it was random, you know? Oh, I've just met another kid with psychic abilities who happens to be around the same age as me. But then this like really concrete connection gets made, and he's like, oh, this is
And then Sam starts to explain. Basically, Sam was explaining a little bit, but then he just let it all out.
Yeah.
Basically.
He tells him all about Mary, like everything.
And tells him that, you know, you and I have been chosen for something.
Still, this means something, right? I mean, for some reason, you and I were chosen. For what? I don't know.
Yeah, I think the word chosen there is really interesting. I don't know why, like, Sam's already seeing it as like something they were chosen for. I don't know what other word he could have used there, though. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially since we know what's coming. Like, usually when you're chosen for something, it's usually got a positive connotation.
Yeah.
And we know that it is not in this case.
No, it's not.
So it is kind of interesting that Sam does seem to view his abilities as maybe not a blessing in that kind of like in that sense, but like he views it as a blessing rather than like a curse. Maybe?
Yeah, I think maybe he sees it as an extra way to help people at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think he must see it in kind of a negative as well, because they did start around the same sort of time that Jessica died. So I don't know how he views it at the moment. But yeah, I thought that choice of word was interesting here.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, Sam's trying to talk him down, essentially, like saying, like, you know, you don't have to kill your stepmom. You don't have to do this. Like, you can just walk away, let them go. But Max just outright says, like, no. Like, I'm doing it. You know, one of the things that Sam says is, like, this won't help. It'll make you as bad as them. I thought that was really sad. And then Max throws Sam into a closet and sort of bars it with a big, heavy dresser to essentially stop him from going, you know, stop Sam from stopping him from going upstairs.
And so we see Max come up into the room that Alice and Dean are in, and like knocks Dean out of the way.
Oh, yeah, really hard. He left a dent in that wall.
He really did.
Believable, I guess.
Yeah. And Max has the gun in his hand and is pointing at Dean. I don't know if you picked this up, but like Dean walks towards him really confidently.
Oh no,
right?
I didn't see that. Yeah,
with the gun in his hand, but then as soon as Max like lets it go and is like hovering, he stops. So I think because Max only did the things that he did because he had this extra strength.
Yeah, I think that Dean was probably pretty confident that he could disarm him while he was holding the gun.
Or the fact that, because like I feel like Dean can read people really well, so I think Max wouldn't have been able to pull the trigger, but psychic Max can.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's a really good point. That's really good. Yeah.
And then, so he backs off, and the gun is then pointed at Alice, and Dean sort of intercepts and says, "If you're gonna kill her, you have to go through me." And he says, "Fine." And Dean gets shot. First of many deaths.
I forgot he died in this episode. I mean, I know he doesn't really die in this episode, but I forgot he died in this episode, and I found it really shocking. And
me too. I was like, how did he get out of this? And then we find out.
Oh yeah, visions. Yeah,
yeah.
we had but like such a Dean thing to do, to stand in front of someone he barely knows. Like, you know. Anyway.
Always the hero.
We've talked too much about self-sacrifice, but come on. So yeah. But I put in my notes like, it's okay, Sam is just having a vision.
Yeah. Sam gets this like wave of power, I guess, because he's like, no.
Yeah, like Dean.
Basically, without saying it.
Exactly.
And he manages to use his ability to move the cabinet out of the way. Like his face is so shocked because he's like, because when he's in the closet, you can see that partially some of it's covered because there's no light coming through, and then suddenly like you can see all the light.
Yeah.
So he's like, he kind of like tests the door and sort of gently pushes it.
So good. Yeah, so good.
And then he like bolts up the stairs, and it's basically gotten to the point where Dean's about to like step in front of Alice.
Yes.
When he gets to the door, and Sam is trying to talk Max out of it.
Yeah.
Saying like, you know, killing Alice isn't going to change anything. So again, this is another warning here. Yeah. Max agrees and turns a gun on himself.
Yeah, and like it cuts to Sam's face, and he just looks so devastated. Like he really wanted to solve this situation. Like, he really wanted to help this guy, and yeah, so as they, you know, they kind of cut to like the stepmom telling the police what happened, and she doesn't implicate like Sam and Dean at all. Like she said that they were family friends who were trying to help, which is good, I guess. But then we cut outside, and like Sam's already saying that he blames himself. He takes things so hard. I think sometimes Dean's able to let things go sometimes, whereas Sam doesn't. He really thought he should be able to talk Max down.
And so the thing is, in this situation, because Dean was already prepared to go in there and like kill Max, he's not going to take it as hard. Whereas Sam, from the beginning, like before this whole sequence happened, you know, he wanted to help him because he feels kindred spirits, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, though, you know, John was never physically abusive, he was neglectful.
Yeah.
So he does, like, Sam does, I guess, have sympathy for Max's situation a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, what Dean says here is completely right. He says like it wouldn't matter what you said. I think, despite what you said there, like about like, you know, John, he being like, you know, Sam kind of seeing that it's, you know, while John wasn't like that, he was neglectful. What he says next is like, well, we were lucky we had Dad,
right? Which,
yes, okay. When you're comparing the situation to Max's situation, yes, definitely. I guess. I don't know. I found this really hard because we find out things later about like, you know, when like some of the things that John sort of left them to their own devices, or like the time he put Dean in like a boys' home. Like, there's things there that you're just like, no, like he didn't do a good job.
Right, and so this. Where I have complimented the writing in this episode, this was not great. But again, I think taking into context, like taking in the times of like 2006, it does feel like that era of television and like media. Of it felt okay to sort of like compare mental illnesses, compare abuses, and not like kind of get away with it, because really you can't compare these two situations because people handle them differently.
Yeah, you're completely right. I think that you're right. This is very like 2006 TV, like moralizing at the end of it, right? Oh, yeah. You know, it's fine for us because, you know, we had a dad who was supportive, and look how we turned out. We were okay, kind of thing. Yeah. I would say that like Dean's face does some interesting things in this conversation. But like, yeah, you know, he kind of does say like, well, I never thought I'd hear you say that about Dad. And Sam kind of does say, you know, what we were just talking about, like, oh, we could have gone a whole other way if he had sort of, you know, tuned out or drank more. It's just, I don't know, it's just an odd conversation. I didn't enjoy it very much.
Yeah, no.
So, I mean, they have this conversation about John, and like maybe this will come up again later. I think we're going to see John soon, so I'm sure we'll have things to say on that one. So they go back to the motel. Sam says like, why would this demon, this thing, kill, you know, mine and Max's mum? Like, what was it after? And that's the first time they've kind of equated demons, I guess, to this. Though I think John maybe mentioned that it was a demon, right? Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
he did.
he did.
I really liked, that when Sam told Dean about his like newfound telekinesis. He's such a joke. Like he makes a joke like, "Oh, bend this spoon."
Yeah. Well, so first of all, he makes a joke of like, you look like you've got some better upper body strength.
Yeah.
And then he talks about bending a spoon. It's just like, ugh.
Stop making jokes to deal with your feelings, Dean.
Yeah. But then he does say the next thing he does talk about, though, is really moving.
Aren't you worried, man? Aren't you worried that I could turn into Max or something?
Nope. No way. You know why?
No. Why?
Because you got one advantage that Max didn't have.
Dad? Because Dad's not here, Dean.
No. Me. As long as I'm around, nothing bad is gonna happen to you.
I was just like,
tearing up, because
yeah,
Sam's obviously worried that he's gonna go down this like dark path. Now he has these psychic powers, and like,
yeah,
Dean, come on, pull at those heartstrings. Like, could you not? Yeah, he says like, as long as I'm with you, nothing bad will happen. I mean, it's not true, but the thought's there.
Oh, yeah. And then, of course, he has to break the moment by being like, you know where we have to go now? And like, before he answered, I said out loud, Vegas. Like, I just knew that was and it's Vegas, and he's like, come on, like crabs tables, we're gonna like. I was just like,
yeah. What was really interesting is as he's making that joke, it shows him like shutting the door, and then he's not smiling, and I was like, oh no,
yeah,
you know he's joking just to cover up the like, oh crap, what's happening?
Yeah, no, that was really good. I really like that. That was like. Even like we mentioned this earlier, but even though he's making all of these jokes, he is 100% concerned,
like worried, like it's like that for the end of the episode. It was really good. The end of the episode,
yeah. So do you think he's worried because he's gonna have the same reaction to how he felt with Max, as in like? He's willing to kill the monster, and the monster happens to be his brother.
I have thoughts on this. So I think it's that. I think that he is worried that this could escalate into something where he has to make that choice. Mm-hmm. I think he's also very worried about how John's going to react, because he knows how black and white John thinks. So maybe he's worried that he's going to have to protect Sam from John at some point. Because of his psychic powers. There's a few things going on there. Yeah.
And actually you saying that triggered a moment from an episode that's I think is in season 2. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna say what it is now, but you don't have to include this.
That's okay.
But where John basically tells Dean that if Sam goes too far, you have to kill him.
Yeah. And I think that moment here is what he's worrying about, like that having to make that choice. On Sam's side of this, though, as well, like I said, I think he was testing Dean's reactions through all of this, because he also knows the same things about how, he reacts to monsters and this kind of black and white thinking. And I think although Dean's very supportive in this episode for the most part, I think his reactions to Max really are ringing alarm bells for Sam, right?
Yeah, they have to be.
Yeah. Oh, boy. The character development in this. Yes. I mean, it had to be, because this is a very main plot episode. Like, this is very much set up to be a main plot episode. So it was always going to be there. And although the subject matter was pretty dark, I feel like they could have done it in a way that it wasn't so dark, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I get they're trying to show a different reaction to a situation.
Yeah.
So whereas like John it's almost like they are making excuses for John. John decided to go out and like do something about it and like try and find out what was the cause of his wife's death.
Mm-hmm.
Now this brings a question of like, so we obviously know who the demon is and like how things come to pass because of a much later season, not just who the demon is, but like
all the other stuff involved in it.
All the other stuff. I don't ever remember like how much they reveal about Max. I know we said we were okay with spoilers, but this part is such a big spoiler.
Yeah.
I'm hesitant to talk about it.
I agree with you. I think let's leave it off there for now. I think I think we
because you know where I'm kind of going with this, right?
Yeah. I mean, I know from some of the comments we've got and stuff that some of our listeners are doing a rewatch. Some of them are watching for the first time. So I do try and put like a spoiler warning in the description. But
this is too much of a a reveal.
we can't go there. I mean, overall, good episode. I think I understand why it was highly rated, because of the story development in it, and like talking through it with you now, and the character development for Sam and Dean. It's super important that this like foundation was laid.
Yes.
Definitely. So with that being said, what is the next episode, Annabelle?
The next episode is called The Benders.
Oh, no, I know this episode. Wow. Oh. This is one of the episodes in Supernatural that I find truly scary. Like, I didn't like Bloody Mary very much, because I think it's scary. This one I think is one of the scariest episodes of Supernatural.
Yeah, no, it's not.
I hope I'm not overstating.
No. Like, I vaguely remember this episode, but I think this is gonna. I know this is one of those episodes that's gonna stay with me for like too long. So this is gonna be fun. But so it's actually rated the same as the previous episode. So there must be some redeeming qualities that we have forgotten. Yes, there is. There definitely is, because of literally what we just talked about.
Okay. Ooh.
So
we're gonna have to watch it then. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we are gonna have to watch this one. Unfortunately. Yeah, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad.
Okay.
But it's gonna be good.
It's gonna be good, yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
So thanks again for joining us in Supernatural Purgatory this week. Hopefully next week we can find our way out. Talk to you then. Bye.
Bye.